My wife cheated with her boss, then documents to steal $250, $0 of our inheritance, and now she's planning to kick me out of the house we bought together. I'm lost and furious. I never thought I'd end up here, staring at my phone in a cold sweat, trying to piece together how everything fell apart so fast. It's like I blinked, and suddenly my entire life was a lie. The craziest part. The moment I found out about the affair, I wasn't even mad at first. I was just stunned, like I'd been punched in the gut. Then came the real shock. I found out she'd been lying about everything, even faking her innocence while secretly screwing her boss, Mark, behind my back. And on top of that, I discovered she's been scheming to steal our inheritance $250, she's been falsifying documents for, all to line her pockets and keep her affair hidden. Her name, Jessica. We got married 5 years ago, and honestly, I thought we had a good thing going. She was always a little bitchy, quick to dismiss my feelings, but I thought that was just her personality. She's a bit of a control freak, always telling me what to do, how to spend money, where to go. She's the type who always has a comeback, a lie ready to cover her tracks. I never really suspected she was capable of something this big. I mean, I knew she was ambitious, but I never thought she'd sink this low. It all started when I began noticing small things: texts late at night, her phone being more guarded than usual, her disappearing for hours with no explanation. I'd ask her about it and she'd brush me off, call me paranoid or insecure. But the real turning point was when I decided to check her emails. I'd been suspicious for a while, especially after she snapped at me for no reason during dinner, accusing me of being overly jealous. So one night, I snuck her phone out of her purse when she was asleep. That's when I saw the messages. They weren't just innocent flirtations. They were outright conversations with Mark, her boss. At first, I thought maybe it was just work-related, but then I found explicit emails, pictures, even plans to meet up. My stomach sank. I couldn't believe it. Jessica, my wife, was screwing her boss, a guy I'd met once or twice, a smug little bastard who always looked at her like she was a prize, and she was giving him everything. I saw her mention secret meetings, late nights, and even how she was planning to make sure I never found out. I felt sick, betrayed, furious all at once. How could she do this to me, to us? The worst part, I found out she's been lying about the money too. She's been forging documents claiming she was investing in some new business, but in reality, she's been funneling money into accounts that I didn't even know existed. I traced the transactions and they led to her account, money she's been stealing from our inheritance, which was supposed to be our safety net. I couldn't believe she'd go this far. She's always been so manipulative, but this was next level. When I confronted her about the emails, she just laughed, brushed it off as if I was overreacting. "You're paranoid," she said. "You're imagining things. Mark's just a friend. You're jealous because I'm successful and he's interested in me." That's her favorite line: blame me for her cheating. She's always been good at lying, twisting things around to make herself look innocent, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I had enough evidence and I knew I had to do something. I couldn't keep living in this nightmare knowing she'd been screwing around and stealing from us all at once. I spent the next few days in a haze, trying to process everything, trying to decide what to do. Part of me wanted to confront her publicly, yell at her, make her admit everything. But another part just wanted to disappear, to leave her with nothing. I knew I couldn't trust her anymore, especially after seeing the documents she'd been forging, the lies she'd been telling. That's when I realized I had to plan my next move carefully. This wasn't just about finding out she cheated. It was about stopping her from destroying what little we had left. I wasn't just furious. I was devastated, betrayed by the woman I loved and trusted. And I knew that if I didn't act fast, she'd take everything from me, including the house we bought together, the money we saved, everything. I couldn't believe how quickly my world was crumbling. Just a few weeks ago, I was happy, planning our future. Now I was sitting here, feeling like I'd been hit by a freight train, trying to figure out how to save what's left of my life. I didn't want to lose everything: my home, my marriage, my dignity. But I also knew I couldn't let her get away with this. Not without a fight. After discovering the truth, everything changed. I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus. I kept replaying the moments when I first saw the emails, the lies she told me, the fake smile she used to cover her tracks. Jessica, my wife, had always been a bitchy, manipulative woman, but I never expected her to go this far, selling her integrity for a quick affair and a pile of stolen cash. The betrayal wasn't just about the sex with Mark. It was about the money, the lies, the way she'd systematically dismantled our life, piece by piece. My first instinct was to confront her again, to hear her spin her stories, to see if she'd admit anything. But I knew better. Jessica had a talent for lying her way out of anything. She'd spin some sob story about how Mark was just a friend, how she was feeling lonely, how I'd misunderstood. She always had a way of turning things around, making me feel guilty for catching her. I'd seen her do it before, her bitchy smirk, the way she dismissed my feelings as if I was just overreacting. That's why I decided I needed to be smarter. I started digging deeper. I hired a private investigator. I couldn't trust her anymore, and I needed proof. Over the next few days, he followed her, tracked her movements, and gathered evidence. Turns out she'd been meeting Mark at a cheap hotel downtown, sending him flirtatious texts even during work hours. The investigator also uncovered bank transfers, large sums of money moving from our joint account into her personal accounts, accounts I never knew existed. The amount, over $250, $0. That's a huge chunk of our inheritance, gone, documents, forged signatures, all her doing. While all this was happening, Jessica kept up her act at home. She'd pretend everything was fine, throwing her bitchy attitude around, calling me paranoid. "You're just jealous," she'd snap. "Mark's just a friend. You're imagining things. Maybe you're the one having an affair, trying to cover your own tracks." I could see the venom in her eyes, the way she would lie through her teeth, always trying to make me doubt myself. But I had the evidence now, and that made everything different. I decided I had to confront her again, but this time with proof. I called her to the living room, laid out the bank statements, the emails, the pictures from the investigator. Her face twisted into a mask of rage and disbelief. She tried to deny everything. "Of course, this is all a mistake," she said. "You're overreacting. Mark's just a good boss, that's all." But I wasn't buying it anymore. I told her I knew about her plans to steal the money, about her affair, about everything. Her bitchy smirk vanished, replaced by a look of pure panic. Her reaction was classic Jessica. She started crying, claiming I was ruining her life, that I was paranoid, that I'd never understand how much she sacrificed. She said she was just trying to build a better future, that Mark made her feel alive again, and that I was just a boring, insecure husband. She even had the nerve to say she loved me, but her actions told a different story. Her words meant nothing anymore. I saw her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish woman willing to lie, cheat, and steal just to get ahead. That confrontation was the turning point. I felt the rage boiling inside me, mixed with heartbreak. How could she do this? To me, to our marriage, to our future. I felt like I was losing my mind, like everything I believed in was crumbling. I wanted to scream, to shake her, to make her see how deeply she'd hurt me. But I also knew I had to stay calm. I had to think clearly if I was going to get out of this alive, emotionally and financially. I started making plans. I couldn't stay in the house with her anymore. Not after all this. I needed to protect myself, my money, my dignity. I reached out to a lawyer, and I began gathering evidence to prove her fraud and infidelity. I knew she was planning to kick me out, maybe take the house, maybe even try to claim the inheritance as her own. That's when I realized I'd have to fight hard. This wasn't just a breakup. It was a war over everything I'd worked for. Meanwhile, Jessica kept up her bitchy attitude, throwing fits, calling me paranoid, accusing me of ruining her reputation. She's always been good at twisting things around, but now her lies sounded hollow. Deep down, I knew she was scared, scared that I'd expose her, that I'd take everything away from her. And that's exactly what I was planning to do. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Not without a fight. I'd never felt so lost and furious at the same time. It's like I was trapped in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Every time I looked at her, I saw the woman I thought I knew, but underneath, I saw the cold, manipulative bitch she really was. I knew I had to act fast before she managed to spin everything further out of control. I was ready for whatever it took to get my life back. because at this point, I'd lost enough already. The more I dug into her lies, the more I realized just how deep this rabbit hole went. Jessica wasn't just cheating with her boss, Mark. She was actively plotting to take everything from me, our house, our savings, our future. I found out she'd been forging signatures on documents that transferred ownership of our property into her name alone. She'd papers claiming I consented, but I never signed anything. She'd been playing me for months, maybe longer, and I was furious that I'd been blind to it for so long. I remember sitting in the living room one night, staring at the documents I'd just uncovered, feeling like I was about to lose my mind. My hands trembled as I held them. I kept asking myself, how did I let her get away with this? How did I not see the signs? Jessica always had a bitchy edge, but I thought it was just her personality. Turns out, it was her way of manipulating everyone around her. She'd gaslight me, call me paranoid every time I questioned her, but now I saw her for what she truly was, a master liar, a thief, and a cheat. I decided I couldn't let her keep doing this. I had to act fast. I contacted my lawyer, a no-nonsense guy named Mike who's handled family and financial fraud cases before. I told him everything, about the emails, the forged documents, the bank transfers, the affair. He was shocked but also glad I brought everything to him. We worked out a plan to freeze her accounts, seize the documents, and prepare for a legal battle over the house and the inheritance. Meanwhile, Jessica was still trying to act innocent. She'd throw tantrums, accuse me of being insecure, said I was just jealous of Mark's success. She'd lie about everything, saying she was just working late, that I was imagining things, that Mark was just a mentor. But I knew better. I had the proof now. The emails, the bank statements, the forged signatures. She was caught and she knew it. That's when her bitchy side really came out. She started to threaten me, saying I'd regret this, that she'd take everything and leave me with nothing. One day I caught her in a lie that broke something inside me. She told me she was going to move out, take the kids, we don't have kids, but at that moment I felt like everything was slipping away and leave me with nothing. She said she'd find a new place, start fresh, and I'd be the one left behind. That's when I snapped. I told her she wasn't going anywhere until I had everything documented and secured. I told her I knew about her plans to steal the inheritance and I'd fight her for every penny. I was done playing nice. That night I stayed up late, going through every document, every email, every piece of evidence I could find. I'd never felt so betrayed, so furious. I kept thinking about how she'd lied to me, how she'd faked her way through our marriage, pretending to be the loving wife, when all along she was scheming and screwing her boss and stealing from us. I felt like I was living in someone else's nightmare. The Jessica I knew was gone, replaced by a manipulative, greedy stranger. I knew I had to be careful. Jessica was cunning. She'd lie her way out of anything, and I'd seen her do it before. I had to gather irrefutable proof before confronting her again. That's when I decided I needed to turn the tables on her. I started recording her conversations, secretly capturing her bitchy remarks, her lies, her threats. I wanted everything on record. I also contacted a forensic accountant to trace every dollar she transferred, every account she'd opened without my knowledge. The evidence was piling up against her, faster than I could keep up. In the meantime, Jessica kept up her act, calling me insecure, saying I was overreacting, trying to paint herself as the victim. She'd even cry, accuse me of ruining her reputation, all because I dared to question her. But I could see through her now. She was desperate, cornered, and dangerous. I realized I had to be even more cautious. I couldn't let her manipulate me anymore. I was tired of feeling like I was losing my mind, losing everything I'd worked for. I had to protect myself, my rights, and my future. Every day felt like a battle. I was caught between heartbreak and rage. I loved her once, but now I saw the truth. She was a liar, a thief, and a user. I was angry at myself for not seeing it sooner, for trusting her so blindly. But I also knew I couldn't let her get away with this. Not without a fight. I started making plans to confront her publicly, to take legal action, to crush her schemes. I wasn't going to let her destroy what's left of my life, no matter how bitchy or manipulative she was. I had to stand up for myself now, or I'd lose everything. The more I uncovered, the clearer it became that Jessica wasn't just cheating on me, she was actively trying to wipe me out financially. The forged documents, the secret accounts. She'd been working on dismantling our entire life behind my back for months. I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. Every time I thought I had a handle on things, something new would surface, another lie, another betrayal. It was like she was a ghost, slipping through my fingers, always a step ahead, always hiding some new scheme. I remember sitting at my desk late one night, scrolling through bank statements and emails, feeling exhausted but determined. I knew I had to act fast. I contacted a forensic accountant, a guy named Steve, who specialized in financial fraud. When he looked at the evidence I'd collected, he confirmed what I already suspected. Jessica had transferred hundreds of thousands of dollars into accounts she controlled, forging signatures on legal documents and even creating fake companies to cover her tracks. The inheritance we were supposed to split. She'd been siphoning it off for months, planning to disappear with it all. The thing that really hit me hard was realizing just how much she'd lied about her intentions. She'd always been bitchy, quick to dismiss my concerns, but she'd also been planning this for a long time. She told me she loved me, that she was just ambitious, just trying to build a better life. Yet all the while she was plotting to take everything I had. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. The woman I married, the woman I shared everything with, she was a con artist, a thief, and a cheat. I decided I'd had enough. I called my lawyer Mike again. I told him everything about the forged documents, the bank transfers, the emails, the secret accounts. We agreed on a plan to freeze her assets, seize her accounts, and start legal proceedings to reclaim what she'd stolen. I knew she'd try to fight me, probably with more lies and manipulation, but I was done playing nice. I was ready for her to face the consequences. Meanwhile, Jessica kept up her bitchy act. She accused me of being paranoid, called me insecure, and told everyone I was just jealous of her success. She even started throwing fits, yelling, crying, trying to make me feel guilty for ruining her life. But I saw through her. I knew her game now. She was desperate, cornered, and dangerous. She lied so much I didn't know what to believe anymore. The only thing I knew was that I had to act fast before she managed to destroy everything. One day she confronted me with a new threat. "You think you're so smart," she spat, "but I'll take everything from you. The house, the money, the kids, everything. You'll regret crossing me." Her bitchy eyes flashed with pure malice. I didn't flinch. I told her I'd fight her every step of the way. I'd take her to court, expose her schemes, and make sure she paid for what she'd done. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. That night I stayed awake, going through every piece of evidence again. I played her voice recordings, listened to her lies, her threats, her bitchy sneers. I knew she was dangerous. She'd lie, cheat, manipulate, and do anything to keep her schemes hidden. But I also knew I had a responsibility to myself. I couldn't let her destroy me. I had to protect what was left of my life, my home, my dignity. I realized that Jessica's real plan was to leave me with nothing. She'd already begun to prepare her exit strategy, and I had to be one step ahead. I started gathering everything I needed to prove her fraud in court. I contacted witnesses, collected receipts, and made sure all her lies were documented. I knew she'd fight tooth and nail to keep what she'd stolen, but I was determined to stop her. Every day I felt more exhausted, more betrayed, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I saw her for what she really was, a manipulative, bitchy woman who'd do anything for money and control. I'd loved her once, but now I despised her for what she'd become. I'd never felt so angry, so lost, yet somehow I knew I couldn't give up. Not now, not after everything. I had to fight for my future, for my home, for my dignity. I was done being the victim. From now on, I was the one in control of this mess, and I'd make sure she paid for every lie, every betrayal, every stolen dollar. The days that followed felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Every time I thought I had a grip on the situation, Jessica would throw another curveball. She kept insisting she was innocent, that Mark was just a mentor, as if that somehow justified everything. She'd bitchily accuse me of mistrusting her, of trying to ruin her reputation because I was insecure. She'd cry and scream, trying to turn the tables, but I saw through her now. I'd gathered enough evidence to see her for what she truly was, a manipulative, selfish woman willing to lie, cheat, and steal to get her way. I remember one particular afternoon. She was sitting on the couch, looking all innocent, trying to act like she hadn't done anything wrong. I laid the bank statements and forged documents on the coffee table, her bitchy face twisted into a sneer. She tried to brush it off, claiming it was all a misunderstanding, that I was reading too much into her business dealings. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I told her I knew about her plans to steal the inheritance, about her affair, and about her forged signatures. Her face lost its color, and her bitchy attitude turned into panic. That's when I decided I'd enough. I told her I was going to take her to court, that I'd expose everything, and that she'd be held accountable for her lies and theft. I warned her that I'd fight for my rights, for the house, for the money she'd stolen. Her response was typical. She started yelling, calling me paranoid, saying I was just jealous of her success, that I'd never understand her ambitions. But her words sounded hollow now. I saw her for what she was, a woman driven by greed and manipulation. I also made a decision. I was going to remove her from the house, our house, the one we bought together. I couldn't keep living under the same roof with someone who'd betrayed me so deeply. I contacted a lawyer to start the eviction process, knowing she'd try to fight me. I had to protect myself, my money, and what little dignity I had left. I knew she'd try to spin everything her way, blaming me, painting herself as the victim, but I was done listening to her lies. Jessica's bitchy attitude only intensified. She started throwing tantrums, calling me a terrible husband, saying I was ruining her reputation, that I was a jealous, insecure loser. She accused me of trying to control her, of being paranoid, all while she plotted her escape. But I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I'd already documented everything, her emails, bank transfers, forged signatures, and I had witnesses ready to testify. I was determined to fight her in court and make sure she paid for what she'd done. One night, I caught her trying to sneak out with a bag of her clothes. I blocked her way, furious. I told her she wasn't going anywhere until I had the legal paperwork in order. I knew she was planning to leave, probably trying to take what she could before I could stop her, but I wasn't going to let her. I told her she'd be staying until everything was settled, until the court decided who owned what. Her bitchy smirk was gone, replaced by a look of pure hatred. She spat at me, calling me a controlling loser, and stormed off. That was the moment I realized how dangerous she'd become. She wasn't just a cheating wife, she was a thief, a manipulator, someone capable of anything to get what she wanted. I felt a mix of anger and sadness. I loved her once, but now I saw her for what she really was, a person who'd betrayed everything we built together. I knew I had a long fight ahead, but I was ready. I'd never been more determined to reclaim my life, my house, and my dignity. I kept telling myself I had to stay strong. Jessica's bitchy, manipulative side was relentless, but I had the evidence, the law on my side, and a renewed resolve. I wasn't going to let her destroy me or take everything I worked for. I'd come too far. Every moment I spent planning, gathering evidence, and preparing for the court battle only strengthened my resolve. I knew she'd fight dirty, but I was prepared for that. I was done being the victim. Now I was fighting back, and I was going to win, no matter what it took. The court date finally arrived after weeks of chaos, planning, and sleepless nights. I sat in the courtroom, feeling a strange mixture of exhaustion and relief. Jessica was there, looking as bitchy and manipulative as ever, trying to put on her innocent victim act. But I had everything: emails, forged documents, witness statements, bank records. I'd made sure. Every piece of evidence was airtight. I knew she was going to try to spin it to lie her way out, but I was ready. When the judge called the case, I laid out everything clearly and confidently. I explained how Jessica had been cheating on me with Mark, how she'd forged signatures to steal our inheritance, and how she'd been planning to kick me out of the house we bought together. I presented the evidence, screenshots, bank statements, signed affidavits, and watched her try to deny everything. But her lies crumbled under the weight of the truth. Jessica's bitchy smirk faded as I finished. She started crying, trying to plead her case, but it was too late. The judge saw through her manipulations. She awarded me full custody of the house, ordered her to pay back every dollar she stole, and declared her actions legally fraudulent. The court also ordered her to cover my legal expenses and prohibited her from contacting me or the family until further notice. The moment the ruling was read, I felt a huge weight lift off my shoulders. I had fought tooth and nail, and I'd won. Jessica looked devastated, her bitchy attitude replaced by shock and anger. She tried to argue, to threaten, but the judge didn't buy her lies anymore. She was ordered out of the house immediately, and I was given full control of everything: my life, my home, my future. In the days that followed, I began rebuilding. I changed locks, secured my finances, and cut all contact with Jessica. I knew she'd try to come back, to manipulate her way into my life again, but I was done. I learned a lot from this nightmare, about trust, betrayal, and the importance of being vigilant. I realized that sometimes people you love can turn into someone you don't recognize at all. Looking back, I wish I had seen the signs earlier, but I also know I can't change the past. What matters now is moving forward. Jessica's betrayal taught me to be more cautious, to value honesty, and to never ignore the red flags. I've started therapy to heal from the emotional scars, and I'm slowly rebuilding my confidence. I'm focusing on myself, on my future, and on the fact that I survived this mess. To anyone reading this who might be going through something similar, trust your instincts. Don't ignore the small signs. Document everything, protect yourself and your assets. And most importantly, don't be afraid to stand up for yourself, even if it means fighting the hardest battle of your life. Sometimes, the truth needs to come out and justice has to be served. I've learned that at the end of the day, you have to fight for your happiness and your dignity, because if you don't, no one else will.